Good evening. This is the WeatherFlow Tropics update. It is Monday, January the 11th, almost 10 p.m. and we've been watching a low pressure system make its way well across the Atlantic Ocean. It is now situated about 900 miles southwest of the Azores, and the National Hurricane Center is giving this disturbance a 40% chance of development over the next 48 hours to become either subtropical or tropical in nature. Right now it is non-tropical. It was extratropical, and now it's sort of starting to fall apart a little bit because it's trying to battle with some drier air on the western side and also some of that cooler air pulling down from the north. So if we look at the 5-day outlook, the National Hurricane Center does keep this storm driving down to the southeast, which is going to place it over warmer waters. So we could get some surface fueling for this system to get some warmer air and maybe some moisture wrapped around the center. If we look at the surface map, here's what's going on now. The surface map has it at about 985 millibars of pressure. Here's the low here. The reason why this system is so successful is because this high pressure to the north is keeping the clockwise rotation going and giving it some top spin. So when we have a high pressure system to the north of a low pressure system and they're both traveling in the same direction and sort of complementing each other, we call this a Rex block. And so that's why this system has been so successful in holding this vorticity near the surface and getting that extra spin it needs to keep a cyclonic formation. Now if we look at the Tropical Atlantic Visible Satellite, here's the low way over here, and you can see all that dry air on the western side of it. That's at the mid-latitudes, and we also have a little bit of Saharan air layer or Saharan dust up that's kind of residual lingering dust up in the atmosphere as well that's trying to wrap up into the center. It's just another further drying mechanism that we're seeing as well with this system. So it's struggling right now, but it is moving down to the south. You can definitely see the center right there. It looked a little bit more impressive earlier. It looked really impressive yesterday, like there was some convection trying to wrap around, and we just haven't seen that yet. So until we get some convection wrapped around it and a little bit of a warmer core, we're not going to be able to get this into a subtropical category or even tropical category. Here's the water vapor imagery, and you can really see that these warmer colors represent the drier air that's along the western side of it, and it's keeping that thunderstorm activity down to an absolute minimum. It's barely even able to get any moisture wrapped around the core, but the low pressure is holding with that vorticity with the high pressure keeping the top spin on it. Here's another angle, and you can see the spin. The center is actually holding up pretty well. Sometimes these low pressures, these compact lows, have a tendency to weather the storm of dry air around it for some time until it gets into a more favorable environment. So here's the earth.nullschool.net map, and I love to look at this one because I like to see if there's any sort of mid-level low developing over the surface low or even an upper-level low developing on top of that. The higher your low pressure shows on these maps, the better the exhaust is. That means the outflow is actually becoming healthy for a system. And what I see on this map is that it looks like this warm air is starting to win out. This crease that you see above to the northeast of the storm represents where the low was occluding at one point, and this cooler air is battling with the warmer air coming up from the south. So this crease is starting to fold up to the north, and as it keeps going in this direction, it's lifting as a warm front up through this area. Some of this warmer air may be able to get wrapped around the core, especially as it drops down in this area over the warmer sea surface temperatures. So that could be a sign that the system could still have a chance of getting into a tropical or favorable tropical characteristic. I want to look at the mid-levels. That's the surface level. Here we go up to 500 millibars. This is 18,000 feet up, and this is what we call the mid-level, and we want to see if there's placement over that surface low, and it's right there just to the east of the center of surface low pressure, which means that it does have somewhat of a healthy exhaust going on for the system. So if there's a mid-level stacked on top of a low level, that means it is able to get some convection wrapped around it at a faster rate once it moves into a more favorable environment. We keep going up in the atmosphere, and we want to look for it to see if there's an upper level low. I don't think there's going to be, but there is an upper level trough that's going to be driving the storm down to the south-southeast. So that this trough may be helping the system push down to the south a little further over those warmer waters. So here's Datascope, our WeatherFlow Datascope viewer, and here's the system here. Let me go ahead and put the pin on it. Here's our weather system here. You can see this warm, moist air right here. This little area, if it keeps getting some of this moisture wrapped around, this warm air starts to make it around the core, we could see some of that dry air be less effective towards keeping the system from developing a more of a solid core of convection. So that's what we would need, is we would need that warm air to actually wrap all the way around it. If we look at the sea surface temperatures for this system, here's our low, and it's actually heading down to the south-southeast in this direction. So these waters, you can even see the table down here, the water temperatures are in the mid to upper 70s at this point, and if it gets down into this area, this is going to be a pretty favorable environment. The upper level shear looks a little bit relaxed. The sea surface temperatures are warmer. The only battle this storm has is that drier air on the western side, the northwest, west, and southwest side of it. The models, I believe, are going to keep that struggle going on where this system may not be able to carry a name. However, the National Hurricane Center keeping it at a 40% chance doesn't seem all that far-fetched. So here's our Euro model at 983 millibars. That's a current reading from 12 o'clock today. It's 985 now. And here's the run. This is from 12 o'clock today, and here we are for tomorrow, Tuesday, at 12 o'clock at 992 millibars. So it actually weakens the storm a little bit and then brings it over. It keeps it right about 991 to 990 to 991 as it starts to swing east, and this is where we could see a name of Alex at this point, because it's down into a more favorable environment with a warmer core. If it gets any kind of subtropical characteristic, it'll carry the name. So that's definitely a possibility. That's the Euro model. Let's take a quick look at the GFS for the same and back it up to the 0 hour. This is from the 6 p.m. tonight run, and 987 millibars it starts and drops it down. This one, the GFS actually weakens the storm a little bit more than the Euro, but they're both pretty much in agreement on the track and the intensity of the system as it drifts towards Africa. There's a high pressure ridge off the coast of Africa that's going to deflect this storm, and it's going to send it off to the northeast. So both models in pretty much agreement. The question is going to be whether or not it captures a name as it drifts down to the south over the sea surface, over the warmer sea surface temperatures. If it gets any kind of moisture wrapped around the core, it gets a warmer core, gets rid of that occluding area where the colder air is trying to remove the warmer air. If we get rid of that crease in the atmosphere and everything starts to wrap around, we get ultimate vorticity all the way around, then we may be carrying the name of Alex. So we'll continue to watch the next couple of days, as we could see our first name system of 2016 in the month of January, which is unheard of. So until then, I will be back on tomorrow night to do another Tropics update, and thank you again for watching.